Good morning. Very, very excited to have you here. Who would have thought that, a discussion around precision timing would have drawn, this type of audience, right? Andy and I were just joking a little bit. When we were thinking about pulling this event together, we were worried that this room was actually going to be, too large. We didn't think there would be, that many people interested in talking about precision timing. But as you can see here, we have a very, very good representation of, industry and government and, technology companies around the importance of precision timing. So on behalf of Juniper and the New York Stock Exchange, we really want to welcome you and thank you for spending time with us. I don't know how many folks in here, anybody heard of Juniper Networks? Does anybody know about what we do? I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that we are one of the, the baddest, performance technology companies out there. I mean, if you guys know, if you didn't know this a little bit, I'm going to have to tell you that the New York Stock Exchange runs on Juniper Networks, right? I said the New York Stock Exchange runs on Juniper Networks. So, thank you. So, one of the things that we do that's really unique about us, we're a 20-year-old technology company, but we are extremely focused on performance, high performance, secure networks. And that's why markets and exchanges around the world rely on Juniper from a technology perspective. And so when Andy came up with this crazy idea around let's have a discussion on timing, and I run the financial services business for Juniper globally. I said, Andy, why we want to talk about timing and what's the relevance to that? He said, Tony, you recognize everything we do runs on on timing. From your cell phones to your cable networks to your the critical infrastructures that we have here across the United States to the financial markets. Everything is based on timing, precision timing, right?
What about secure and reliable timing? Now that I've walked you through a little bit why we do timing, why you care about it, and just to highlight the key points there are, again, it's about good analysis tools so that you can optimize your network and environment, and obviously also for compliance and regulation. But all of this is based on having good timing to begin with. There's a need for this kind of precise timing, and there's a lot of different threats. And I'm lumping different kinds of threats together here to make it a little bit simpler. So you have a broad risk profile. If you think about it, you're dealing with, most of us grab our timing off of a satellite system, and most of us also have things like DirecTV or Dish and Cablevision or whatever your favorite carrier is, and you notice things like it fades, right? We've all seen our channels drop out. Well, think about your timing dropping out the same way. A cloud went by, a thunderstorm, whatever it is. So you've got the natural inherent, naturally caused risks. You also have risks that come in from people that just like to do bad things. Okay, that makes it even more challenging. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. Near term, the risks for the industry today are more annoyance than they are fatal, in the sense that our dependence on timing is very high, but is climbing very, very rapidly over the next 3 to 4, 5 years. Partially driven by regulatory compliance to make sure that we do have precise time, but also because our analysis tools, our optimizing of our network all depend critically upon this timing being distributed through the network with an incredible level of precision. And if the base reference isn't correct, we're going to have a very, very serious challenge as an industry. Now, as far as denial of service attacks, I've already covered one. It rained. It's foggy. Pick your favorite reason. So that's an inherent limitation of space-based technology. It is what it is. There is some ways to improve upon it, but we pretty much understand that. I reference one here, affectionately referred to as the Newark Airport incident, where a gentleman decided that he wanted to take a nap in his truck. His truck did have a GPS system in it for his employer to track where he was making his deliveries. Decided it would be really cool to plug into his cigarette lighter a GPS jamming device and turned it on. Unfortunately, it had a few side effects that affected the airport. Whoops. Now, this was a nice guy who just wanted to take a nap. Not a true hostile person, okay? Just having a little sleepy time. That's all he wanted. And takes out Newark Airport. Congratulations. Can you imagine if they intended to do that? So that's the other thing that we have to start to guard against, is people who really do want to take out space-based transmissions, or worse yet, spoof it. Can you think about the havoc that will wreak? Not jamming would be bad enough because we can always go to our alternate backup clocks, but what if I start to dither the timing? Since it is fundamentally a weak signal coming in from space, what happens if I decide to intercept it and adjust your time clock and drift your time clock so you're no longer in compliance with the rest of the industry? That would be an incredible nightmare for any particular firm. So we have to guard against that also.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Caitlin Durkovich from the Department of Homeland Security. It is wonderful that when I started this job nearly 4 years ago, I had little understanding of the importance of GPS. And how, again, our American way of life was enabled by position navigation and equally important precision timing. What I have subsequently learned, in part thanks to many of you in this room, is that, first of all, GPS is ubiquitous across our infrastructure. Andy has talked how it enables the financial services sector, but we also have to look at communications, at agriculture, emergency services, you name it. Almost any of the 16 critical infrastructures, electricity, depends on the GPS signal for either position, navigation, and or timing. I don't think I need to cover the importance of precision timing. I think that both Tony and Andy have done a very good job setting that stage, other than really to foot stomp that it is crucial to so many of our economic activities and to the efficient functioning of, again, the many networks and systems that really enable our way of life.
Precision time is one of countless data inputs into many complex systems and processes used by the financial sector and, again, by other sectors. For critical infrastructure owners and operators who rely on precision time, eLoran may provide an alternate data source to protect against and mitigate unanticipated disruptions. A precision time source such as eLoran might mean the difference between accepting or mitigating risk, a meaningful distinction when assessing risk management posture across an enterprise. Executive leadership previously delegated the details of technology, reliability, interconnectivity, and security of these operations to specialists, many, many levels removed from the boardroom. Operational resilience and risk management are now key leadership functions.
I'm Greg Winfrey, Assistant Secretary for Research and Technology at the U.S. Department of Transportation. We must recognize that resiliency cannot be achieved via a single solution. Complementary PNT systems must be just that, complementary, and provide the user community with a range of solutions mindful of the countless industries that rely upon accurate positioning, navigation, and precise timing services. And with that, I'd like to recognize my colleague, Joe Wassel from the Department of Defense, who will next talk about opportunities for partnering in this space.
You know, it's great to be on the floor this morning. It's just a great symbol of strength and confidence and the optimism that I think we all felt down on the floor. I think that the national security and national economic security are, inextricably linked, not be late to the need. And I think that's what that drives us and brings us together here today. So I think we need to identify the transactions where we have our least tolerance for risk. I think we need to better understand the cost of the loss of timing and a resiliency capability there. And finally, I think that resilient timing is just critical for mission assurance, and it is just so cross-cutting that it's great that we're here this morning.
To ensure the safe and efficient operation of the National Airspace System, the FAA required redundancy, and redundancy still remains the order of the day. By way of example, the FAA, in cooperation with many industry partners, including Harris, provides essential redundancy to important components of the NAS. They have backup radios and telecommunication capability. They have redundant surveillance methodologies. They have redundancy to their power supplies and redundancy to equipment, personnel, and procedures that they at times need to activate in order to keep everything functioning the way it is. Timing should be no different from that. But there is no redundancy per se, except in very expensive areas on the timing issues. We shouldn't even have to think about it. The alternative, that we should be concerned about whether these things are available and functioning properly when flights are in the air is unacceptable. A constant, reliable timing source should also be looked at as one such element essential to the success of U.S. aviation. Mr. Chuck Hsu from UrsaNav to now step forward with his comments and the demonstration. Chuck.
How about having contingency plans in place to make sure that in the event that something does go wrong, that you are ready, that you're not the person looking on? What is your contingency plan? What does it include? How are you making sure you have an assured or accurate source of time? We like to talk about a resilience triad, having 3 sources of position, navigation, or time. For example, for timing, how about GPS? How about eLoran? And how about some oscillators or some other method? When you have 3 sources, you can do majority voting. You can determine whether one or more of your solutions is bad and then take the appropriate action. Motivation for resilient timing and a UTC service is the fact that every system is vulnerable. Every system. There are no perfect systems, as you may have seen. I want to make sure I'm very clear that we are a huge advocate of the global positioning system. It is the global standard for position, navigation, and timing. It's provided free around the world. It is a huge and economic enabler. We believe that the global positioning system should be fully funded. It should be protected, toughened, and augmented. And we believe that if it is available and if it is trustworthy, then you should certainly be using it. The issue is, what if it's not available or what if it's not trustworthy? What are you doing as your backup? And it's important to point out that there are differences. It's important that we understand that diversity in your position and navigation timing is incredibly important. You need to have different ways to receive the signals and different mediums for getting the signals to you in case one is interrupted, because all technologies are vulnerable. What we hope is that they're not all vulnerable at the same time. I want to talk again about the fact that even the best technologies in the world have a bad day. Okay? Bad things happen to good stuff. And in 2014 was a very bad year for global navigation satellite systems. About this time in 2014, the Russian system, GLONASS, the entire system went down for 11 hours. The whole satellite system was not available for 11 hours. That same year, a few months later, the Galileo system, which is the European system, I believe it'll be fully online in the 2020s sometime, a couple satellites were launched into the wrong orbit. Oops. Okay, things like that happen. Not only is it $1 billion oops, it's the fact that they were not usable for a long period of time. No one intended for either of those two things to happen. They happened. And this year, GPS, which has been and still is, like I said, the gold standard, it had a little oops and slipped from gold to silver on January 26th of this year.
Hi. I come from AT&T, and I have to preface anything I say here that I don't speak for AT&T. But being there in working in synchronization, we are, moving toward LTE-A. That requires phase timing as well as frequency and time of day for services like E911 and EMBMS. We are moving towards a solution that is not eLoran. We haven't really deployed that much, but we are testing. We're talking about it. eLoran would be, I think, a preferable solution for us in terms of cost. Because the cost to meet the LTE-A stringent timing requirements is enormous. But we have a chicken and an egg problem here. AT&T, I don't think, would invest in eLoran until we have an eLoran service you know, that would provide this for us. So I guess the question is, and I do have technical questions later, but the main issue then is, what's the government going to do? Are they going to come out and fund it for us and build this? You know, it's like Field of Dreams. If you build it, we'll come.